visually watch. I don't know.
What's that?
I was trying to pay attention to the comments, so at least I could.
Yeah.
The two
If
of
you
us,
could
I could
pull
see
it up, yeah. If you actually,
I can't pull this up. It's going to change that, but I can do it. Let me just see what.
Are you looking for the registration link?
For this one, well, I don't want to be able to talk about or pay attention to the comments if somebody's.
Yeah. Here, I can send it to you.
Perfect.
Good afternoon, good morning, depends upon where you are in this world. Where I'm at is the world headquarters of the Coral Springs Parkland Fire Department. And we are here attending a lithium-ion symposium. And I want to I'm Bill Gustin, of course you know that. I'm the oldest guy in the room. I'll make the other introductions there, but I also want to give a shout out to our good friends at Key Hose. That's keyhose.com. I say it every hangout that we have. Take the key challenge. Charge it at low pressure. See if you can kink it. It's very difficult to kink key hose, and it's in use right now, being dragged all over the drill ground at Miami-Dade by our recruit classes that are enjoying the balmy weather with a heat index of about 116. I told the recruits the other day, if you can take this, you can take anything. So we're going to introduce our regular panel here first. Jimmy, just introduce yourself. Tell them where you're at.
Hi guys, Jimmy Davis over at Engine 43, Logan Square in Chicago, single engine house. And I want to give a shout out to the shift yesterday. Did a really good job at a night fire. And it's not as hot and as humid as it is in Florida right now, man. I don't know how you guys put up that. I spent a week out there and I was already dying, man. Good job.
What's the temperature like, Captain Lamping, today in Las Vegas?
It's going to be a chilly 106 today.
Wow.
Heat, Bill.
Yeah, but it's a dry 106, Captain Lamping.
Yeah, dry 106. Yeah.
Too hot.
Yeah. Clark Lamping from the Clark County Fire Department, Engine 38, engine and rescue, a little bit off the strip, suburbs area. Been on the job for 25 years, captain for 14 years. And love being here. Absolutely love my favorite time of the week is the Humpday Hangout.
And you had a heck of a shift. I think we talked on Sunday. You had already had a fire and 3 cardiac arrests.
Yeah, it was a hell of a day. Hell of a way to start the day. We're never that busy, but yeah, fire and 3 cardiac arrests before breakfast. We ate breakfast at 1 o'clock in the afternoon that day.
Okay, make us feel bad there, Captain Brent Brooks from Toronto. Are you on duty, sir?
I'm on duty. Yeah, I am. And I got a jacket on. It's nice and cool up here. And I don't think we're sending any more smoke down south of the border. So I think you guys can breathe easy.
Okay. Well, can you rub it in? Is there a way we can convert the Celsius to Fahrenheit? So you can tell us what the temperature is like.
We're about 75, 80.
Oh,
so it's
man.
Warm. It's actually warm.
Oh.
You should be in a bikini, Brent.
Now that's more like it. Now that's what we're used to.
Yeah.
Very, very, very similar.
I got to show you this backdrop here. If you can see that, it's pretty impressive. That's the background of the meeting room we're at in the Coral Springs Parkland Fire Department. I'm going to turn the hangout over here shortly to our battalion chief, Anthony Gonzalez, who's going to explain the symposium that we are participating in today. Chief, you want to go ahead and take the floor?
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Can you hear me okay? See me okay? Good. Anyway, as Cap said, my name is Anthony Gonzalez, Battalion Chief of the Training of the Coral Springs Parkland Fire Department. And the purpose of today's symposium or synopsis, conference, whatever we want to label it, is the stressing the importance of getting this information out to our firefighters out there so they can go ahead and operate safely when it comes to tactics, because this is, as we all know, a big tactics change for the fire service and on how we do things handling EV fires. But I don't want to steal anybody's thunder as we go around the table, but we can't stress the importance of continuing to be a student of our craft as it related to as things change, especially with these EV fires that are have been blessed upon us. And that's really what I have for right now. Where else you want to go, Captain?
Well, I think we're going to start with the two investigators because that is our overall theme. Let's just go ahead and introduce yourselves and explain. You guys have been very busy.
Very busy.
You have been very busy, and to the extent that you feel comfortable explaining what you've been involved with, Captain Forrester.
My name is Jerry Forster. I'm the captain for Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Fire Investigations Bureau. Right next to me is Lieutenant James Adams. We are currently expanding our education and our training to not only fire investigations, also to the units and the first arriving officers to better educate and train them in aspects of fire investigations and different aspects of safety like the EV fires to make sure that we conduct investigations and our first arriving officers to be safe in their daily operations. Excuse me. Captain, you wanted me to talk about the events of yesterday?
Yes, to the extent that you're permitted or feel comfortable with, Captain.
We currently had a busy day yesterday. Unfortunately, we had a fatality from a fire that we conducted. But the one we're really talking about was a report of an explosion in the Miami-Dade area with injuries. I can't go deeply into it because it's an active investigation, but the one thing I wanted to talk about was the first arriving officer and command recognizing a potential explosion and contacted our department, contacted us, and we were able, with the other agencies that were involved, to do a proper investigation because the first arriving officers, through our training and our continuing training, they recognize that this is something extensive and there's something behind this where investigations need to get involved. Getting involved as quick as possible, it helps our investigation. It helps us get the answers. People don't leave the scene. And at this time, with the help with Lieutenant Adams, we are currently doing follow-on training and doing videos and actually live demonstrations for our first arriving officers to understand what to look for and what safety aspects of overhaul and potential fire investigations in the future.
Yeah, I think one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to get our company officers and our company firefighters as well, is to get them to buy into the concept of there's more than just putting a fire out. We need to find an origin and cause, mainly because we want to keep our guys and girls safe. So if we can determine origin and cause, we can put policies in place to maybe stop future incidents. But again, it comes down to the company officers. And as of yesterday, our company officers hit it out of the park. And we were able to get there quickly. I think I had a response time of less than 25 minutes from the time I was dispatched to the time I took arrival and took control of the scene. And we were able to secure it and start the process. And then when the FBI came in, the bomb squads and those guys, we had a pretty good handle on it. So it was a seamless transition throughout all of the agencies, and it worked well.
Mike, you've been, this is Captain Bill. You've been involved with lithium-ion batteries before it was common knowledge or fashionable.
Yes.
And I think you have a compelling story about how you first started looking into the problems with lithium-ion batteries. And then we can ask Peter to bring up the two, the batteries that are inside the cage there on the hot plate. Tell a little bit about your son.
Right. I guess it was early 2019. I went and wake my son up for school. And at the time, he had like a 10-foot long cord, power cord for a cell phone. So I go in to wake him up, and he is wrapped all in the cord. And I picked up his phone, and it was so hot I couldn't touch it. So it got me to thinking, this isn't right. This is dangerous. And knowing just a little bit about the batteries, I'm like, this is a potential fire hazard. So I started doing a little bit more research, a little bit more deep diving into the batteries and what caused them to fail. And then shortly after that, there was the issue in Colorado or Arizona with the lithium-ion battery storage facility that blew up and hurt 4 firemen. So then I really did the deep dive, and here we are today. It's almost a passion of mine with the batteries and the cause and the failures of them, mainly to keep our guys safe. You know, I always tell our guys, our training bureau says we're the tip of the spear, and I disagree with them. I said, no, fire prevention is the tip of the spear, and we're part of fire prevention. If I can keep you safe before you ever get there, I've done my job. Therefore, we're the tip of the spear. So I keep that in mind the whole time is, what am I doing? I'm trying to educate our firemen, educate the public in order to keep our guys safe. Just an awareness level that these batteries are out there and how bad they are. You know, I give the analogy in some of the classes I teach, lithium batteries are like a beehive. If you get, the bees are happy, you're making honey. You get one bee that's mad, you got a swarm and they're all pissed off and they're all going to come after you. So that's why I try to teach to our company officers and even the civilians that, and our inspectors, that these things are bad and they're out there, to be aware of them and know the potentials for them.
You've got a couple of videos that Peter can show, but I think what's important, these are the 18650s. So what impresses me is this is one cell. In certain electric vehicles, they use the same cell, but they use like 9,000 of them.
The 18650 battery is the most common used lithium-ion battery. Everything from flashlights to EVs, and they put them in a series, and they get the 400 volts or better out of it. So one of the things that I did is I say, okay, we know 9,000 batteries has got to be bad. What happens if we just to show the potential? This is one. Now imagine you have 9,000 of them together. That took less than 2 minutes.
We're ready for that one.
Ignite and explode. So it's, like I said, I use it as a training tool just to show that these are bad.
Yeah, you should have another one there Peter could bring up.
Yeah, the one with them off-gassing
Yes.
should be there. And one of the things people don't really readily consider is, yeah, there is a fire potential, but a lithium battery has upwards of 106 known toxic flammable gases that it expels. So you get an enclosed environment. There was an incident in Colorado just recently where they had a smoke explosion, and that smoke explosion blew the garage door off, hit the officer in the head. Luckily, he was wearing his helmet. You can see in this video, you can see the toxic gases being emitted from one battery. So again, imagine in an enclosed space such as a car or a commuter bus, something like that, you're going to have not only a fire hazard, you're also going to have a hazmat scene with potentially toxic and flammable gases. So it's a major deal.
Mike, early in my career, I learned that the number one, as you said, number one reason we investigate the fire is to eliminate the cause.
Correct.
And when it comes to electrical problems that involve an open neutral, energized water pipes, insufficient ground, and some type of stray electricity, unless we can identify that, you're going to have another fire.
Correct.
And it could be, correct me if I'm wrong, you could have a fire in a wall, in an attic or under a floor of a house that doesn't even have an electrical service.
Correct.
Due to the energized plumbing.
Correct.
Yeah, from an electrical problem in a house down the street.
Correct.
We had an incident 3 weeks ago for the exact same reason. We had 2 separate fires in a house in North Miami Beach where the same situation happened. FP&L said they pulled the meter and they said that the house was not energized, but they were still getting a secondary fire where it comes to find out the house was still energized and it was getting traveled through the piping system itself.
Yeah,
Oh.
that particular house, back when the house was built, it was a 3-phase system. And they had dropped the leg off of it because they didn't need it anymore.
Drop the face.
So when FPNL pulled the meter, they killed the 2 active legs. They still left the 3rd leg energizing the system through an open neutral.
And the 2 fires, exact opposite sides of the house. And at first, we got called out thinking that this was somebody starting a secondary
And
fire.
it can also be, if the power company pulls the meter, it could be the ground and the neutral could be already fused before that and bypassing the meter, running into the house, creating that open circuit or open neutral.
Well, I'm really proud of you guys, and thank you so much for coming on. I'm gonna introduce Chief Jim Russo with the Hollywood Fire Department. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're doing at the state level, the state of Florida, and even your participation, your role in developing these county-wide SOPs? I just plagiarized the hell out of your electric vehicle one.
Sure.
And but I just think what you are doing is so good and is a model for the rest of the country.
Sure. Well, thank you for that. And first, I would say this, that all the thanks really goes to everybody who puts in the work, right? My role usually is more of a project manager. And depending on the subject, in my availability is how deep I get into this. So I am researching right along with the work group. So I'll start out at the county level. I'll say this, that one of the core values of the Fire Chiefs Association of Broward County is collaboration. So we have subcommittees that report to the fire chiefs every month. So I chaired the training and education subcommittee. So we started a work group, which it originally had a couple members of my fire department that actually are not involved regularly with the committee, Chief Brian White, Eric Lombardi. And then they got together with some of our local subject matter experts. We brought it to the training group, and we knew we had to get an SOG out there. We started really gaining momentum right before Ian. And then, of course, Ian made us take a double look at everything else that was going on. So simultaneously, what happened was I am also the chair of the South Florida LEPC. So as such, I report to the State Emergency Response Commission quarterly. So at one of these meetings, we have a state training task force. So we bring up hot ticket items. So this obviously is a hot ongoing item. Director Rice was instrumental in getting manufacturers to get information to responders to help in their recovery efforts after Ian. And then the survey went out and we started to get a lot of data. So basically through the CERC Commission, they stood up a training task force specifically for the lithium-ion. And what Director Rice has done, she put together, along with guys like Rob Dietrich from FDEM, we put together this task force with stakeholders, fire rescue representation from special ops, non-special ops, metro areas, rural areas, all over the state. But the important thing is also other stakeholders, right? It's important for us, and just having the investigation guys here is making me think about what we need to start thinking about investigations. You know, there's cross-pollination all over the place here. But code enforcement, all the manufacturers, the vendors, all these different ancillary appliances that we're seeing. So they're all going to be at the symposium. And that got capped at 200 participants. And we're going to have discussions there behind the scenes, as well as everything that you're going to see at the symposium. And the state will come out with some more direction.
It's great. Well, speaking of a hot item, it's not going to get any hotter than this, Chief.
Yeah.
This is some serious business, fellas. And Chief Kenny Yost is going to explain what type of fire his department dealt with, just last week?
It was July 19th.
Okay.
So on July 19th, our crews responded to a fire in the middle of the night, approximately 4 o'clock in the morning, at a place called International. It's where a lot of us get our trucks fixed down here. Upon arrival, they had a large amount of thick white smoke. They basically couldn't even see the vehicle. It was locked in the back of the compound. They cut the gate. They made entry into the yard. They had little visibility of the unit that was on fire at this time. They basically followed the direction of smoke. They got the truck back there, secured a water supply, all the things that we basically normally do. There was no trailer attached to it at this time. They checked the driver's side. The fire was on the passenger side of the vehicle. I don't know if those pictures are up yet, Pete. If you could show maybe the first 2 or 3 pictures. There's a first picture of it, the mule. That's what it looks like. Obviously, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. The yard didn't have lights, and there was a big plume of smoke that covered not only that vehicle, but a few other ones that it was surrounded by. Go ahead and show the next one. That's a picture of the battery bank right there. That is on the driver's side of the vehicle. Each one of those batteries has approximately 600 volts in it. That's one of the ones that's unburned. There was actually, that's one box. There was 2 boxes on each side of the vehicle. So 6 of those batteries on each side of the vehicle. Go ahead, one more picture, Pete, I believe. Okay, so if you look, this that picture is internal. The battery, this is the best one we could get. Those little yellow, what I describe as everyone kind of like car fuses, those are the actual batteries that are individual lithium batteries that are in that battery. So the crews checked the driver's side of the vehicle. They're trying to get their bearings and see what they had. So when they got over to the left side of the vehicle, they were unable to see anything. That the tick led them into exactly where the fire was. What else? They were having a hard time getting into that box. The box was sealed. It was protecting the battery, so they weren't really able to put any water on it. The second picture that you saw, they took a set of irons and actually removed the front cover of the box to see what they had. When they went over to the back over to the passenger side, to the one that was on fire, because of fire damage and heat, they were unable to get the cover off. So they took a K950 saw. They tried to make a small triangle cut on the top of it, so they can. The idea was to fill it up and basically make a bathtub of that compartment. So they finally were able to get that in there, and I should have led with this statement, but this mule was brought to the yard. It'd been sitting there for 2 weeks. That battery compartment that caught on fire was totally disconnected from all the battery banks. It'd been sitting out there for 2 weeks with nothing connected to it, and that was the one that caught fire.
I got a question. Did your crews know that it was an EV?
No, not at first. So it took them a long time for the smoke to dissipate. They were actually, one of the things they were doing, they were also using a fog nozzle to blow the smoke, because the cloud was just hanging there. Like a lot of the videos that we see was the white smoke, almost similar to what a smoke machine puts out, but 10 times on steroids. It was 10 times. They couldn't see anything. They said it was like a cloud. They just walked into it and disappeared. But
that's a concern, because if you're coming up with these tubs and tankers and buses, how do we know?
They had no. So if you go back, pull up the first picture real quick one more time, please. So if you look at the first picture, if you zoom in on it on the side there, there's actually a green stripe that goes. It just says it's a green vehicle, but other than that, it's 4 o'clock in the morning and no lights out there. So
And Chief, this is the kind of vehicle that moves semi-trailers from one loading dock to the next?
correct. So it's at a local city furniture warehouse that we have. It's one of the biggest warehouses we have down there. It's a quarter mile long actually, and they use there was I believe it was 5 of them total that were at City Furniture. And shortly after we had this fire, they had just brought another one over to the place with the same exact battery fault that the first one had.
And I understand there was some kind of indication of a fault.
Correct. They were saying it was a ground fault.
Yeah.
Correct.
Lessons learned, Chief. Knowing with 2020 hindsight being so perfect.
Oh, that's a good one. There's a lot of stuff. Visibility. Hey, Pete, go ahead and I think go back to the last three. I think there was three more pictures. There's a picture of the inside of it burned. So that's actually after the fire. But let's see the next one. That's another picture of the batteries, just with all the cables on the side. You can see there was not much room in there. Those batteries were in there. Cables, there's probably 2 inches on each side where all the cables were, and there's probably a 1/2 inch on the top and the bottom between the batteries. And then if you go to that last one, there's the front of it. You can see that's kind of where they did the pie cut. They did it right there towards the front, and then they just dunked in the Pro Pack and one of our 1 3/4 lines to fill that thing up with
Chief,
water.
knowing what you know now, would you have cut the battery pack?
No, we're not advising to cut the battery pack. That was something that they did, just because the fire kept reigniting every couple of minutes. So it burned for probably somewhere around 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
And could you comment on the potential if that cloud of gases, off gassing, if that vehicle had been enclosed in a building?
Yeah, so we were very lucky. It was just outside of the building. They hadn't gotten inside yet to work on it, but if that thing would have been inside the building, the plume of smoke covered everything around. I mean, those guys were saying probably 75 feet of a circumference around that vehicle. They couldn't see anything. So ground up, it was just. We actually have a little bit of video of it, and you can. The smoke was so thick you could see the other vehicles coming in 200 feet away. You could see all the lights reflecting off the smoke.
You know, I've got to thank our brother, Jimmy Davis, for introducing me to Lieutenant Chris Soda with the Chicago Fire Department. And he has a little side business, junkyard dog extrication, and very knowledgeable. And it's the more I delve into this, the more ambiguity and the more conflicting information. And one thing I want to give a shout out to the Energy Security Administration. It's similar to Chemtrek, And I don't have the number up here right now. I believe we've talked about this in the past on previous Hangouts. Now, this fella here, are you a chief yet, Mr. Brent Brooks?
Just an acting chief.
Acting chief. And would you explain what a Canadian hot tub is, sir?
So what we do is we take the Bresnan distributor, which is 2,000 liters a minute, so 500 GPMs, and we have a cage on it, and we'll drop that in the car and make a Canadian hot tub or bathtub. And we know we can't extinguish the fire, but we can stop the rest of the car, like the seats and stuff, from burning. And we filled the car up in 36 seconds because we're putting 500 gallons per minute in it. And then we controlled with our gate on how much that car was leaking to actually keep that, water constant. And the reason why we did that is normally outside we let it burn, but we're thinking if we have, a lot of high rises up here, if we have a high rise fire in an underground and that smoke and that toxic gas is allowed to spread for hours, even a department our size, we can't keep a constant flow on it. So we thought by putting the Bresnan in it and underneath it, that we can set that and actually leave it unstaffed and control it remotely with our gate and gates. So that's what we're doing if we have a fire in an underground, or I guess in your case, a large warehouse where we do have to exit because we just can't afford to do bottle change after bottle change, even a department our size.
And Clark, let's get to our topic for today. I needed to bring up these other things because of the conference that we're at and the importance of getting the word out about the fire that Chief Yost's department had. What is the criteria on your department for when you have to request an investigator? And can your company officers conduct if it's a clear-cut case, can they go ahead and just conduct the investigation without calling in a special investigator?
Yes, they can, Cap. In fact, the company officer is expected to conduct the investigation. And we have training in that. That's one of the things we learn in the officer school. The criteria for The criteria for calling out investigators $50,000 worth of damage. That's just a dollar figure. But then we can call an investigator anytime we want, right? Anytime we want. If it's something look like criminal activity, we had a car fire once. This woman usually parks the vehicle up against her house. Well, this day she decided to park the vehicle down at the bottom of the driveway, and the car mysteriously caught on fire. From the exterior, the gas tank, the engine compartment wasn't affected. The interior was slightly affected, and the whole back of the car was burned up. And she says, well, I don't know what happened. Yeah, so something like that where it looks like there's some criminal activity, we go ahead and respond the investigators on that because there's going to be an arrest or some kind of a conviction on something like that.
Now, Jimmy, you have the OFI, correct? Did I say that properly?
Yeah, Cap. Yeah, Cap. Yeah, but we have OFI, Office of Fire Investigations, fully staffed 24 hours a day, 365. It's a big crew. It's a big production. In regards to requesting OFI, it's kind of like what Captain Clark said, is that company officers have the leeway to try to determine the cause, or at least, and if they're stumped, for example, on an auto fire, you could possibly call in OFI to help you with that. It's hardly done, but that is at your disposal. In all working structure fires as well, they're an automatic response to the fire. Post fire, they come in and do everything. They do a phenomenal job. They get in there and get themselves dirty, but it's something to be very proud of our guys also in that aspect of the fire service when it comes to fire cause and determination. So my hats off to them as well.
Jim, I want to say again, thanks to our friends at Key, at keyhose.com. And that's both conventional hose, and I'm really impressed with their FDNY spec. Honestly, if I had to do over again, we probably would have made that selection. But, you get married to a certain type of hose, and people will ask me, well, hey, Cap, you have that 2-inch. Well, why didn't you pick the 2 1/4? Well, it wasn't available at the time. I said, let me ask you something. Are you married? Yeah. Well, do you change wives every time a new and improved one comes up? I don't know. I don't think so. I want to give a shout out to our brother in Quebec. I received something in the mail from Elaine Rancourt. I think I said that right, Clark, didn't I? Yep. And nice patch. Whoop. Nice patch. Elaine, if you're watching, and I think you are, God bless, brother. And I'm looking forward to having you on again, even though English is your second language, but you do a pretty good job of it.
That's a good man too, Cap Gustin. That's a good man there.
Yes. I don't think there's a conference out there that he does not attend. I'm reading some notes here. I'm sorry. That's the chief who hangs out with us at H Rock. Yep. And something about Clark. Somebody wants Clark to be muted. What, you mean like permanently? Permanently?
Yeah, my wife put that in there.
Yeah, permanently mute Clark.
Yeah, one of the questions was too is do we know if there's some type of national or state database that is actually collecting data in regards to EV vehicles?
Here, let me put this guy back on.
Funny you bring that up.
So actually, we did a little work on this again yesterday. I saw some emails. So as we went through Ian, we had a lot of deployments that were over there. Federal USAR, state USAR, and then the strike teams.
For those of you on the other coast, that's called a hurricane.
Hurricane. So
A bad one.
yeah, I apologize. Hurricane Ian. So as a matter of fact, we're still seeing some fallout from Ian. One of the, I think I don't want to.
What an irony.
Yeah,
What an irony. Sacramento.
Sacramento, that fire that got all the social media attention yesterday.
Yes.
I think Elon got a special text on that
Yes.
one. That one was a Florida car that was affected by Ian, which we knew they're going to make it back out to market. So if they're in Sacramento, I'm pretty sure we got a couple in Dade and Broward. So basically, there was a survey that the state fire marshal's office put together under the direction of Joanne Rice. And it was a quick survey that went through the type of incident, just in an effort to gather data. So what we're looking at doing is just altering that a little bit. And we're going to try to geotag it if possible. So that's what we're working on right now. The survey will go out with some type of PSAs to the departments on where this information is going. And really, we're just trying to get good data. And from a the working group standpoint, and with our conversations, Bill, we need to kind of build up on these tactics, right? We have some general ideas of how we're going to attack a EV fire. We're going to let it burn if we can, right? If we need to protect exposures or if we're in thermal runaway, we're going to take actions there. But I think the real meat and potatoes, like look at Chief Yost's incident here, that vapor cloud, we've all seen them on the videos, that if you haven't had one of these incidents, it's really an eye opener to see how dense picture a fog machine on steroids, and it's going to make that cloud in 3 or 4 seconds. So you hit on an important thing. It's toxic and flammable. So we need to get that word out, right? So all the different lessons learned, how people are monitoring, what's working, what's not working is what we want to build up on our tactics, our best practices, near misses. This is the more effort and information that we get from firefighters at this point is going to come back and give us the guidance moving forward.
And networking is great. I've networked with Clark, networked with Chris Soda from Chicago.
Mhm.
Actually, fellas in Australia, in the UK.
Yeah.
And
Very nice.
yeah, so and what a waste if we're all trying to reinvent the wheel. No, let's put our heads together
Absolutely.
and collaborate.
Absolutely.
And at the state level, I know that you're involved with that, as well as Ms. Rice with the State Fire Marshal's office. Nationally, is there any type of clearinghouse for this information?
So I know the NFPA has got a lot of information out there. You're going to see more guidance coming from the EPA. So at the last CERC meeting, we talked about some of these reignitions after investigations, after we're trying to clear up these scenes. And the EPA is usually involved to get these batteries to the point where we can take what you call a DDR battery.
Yes, DDR.
DDR battery, and because they'll have to permit it if we want to put more than one per container. And really what they're looking to do is make sure that these things are safe.
Mhm.
Right? So just the information that we get here is going to make a big difference. If you look at, some of the things that happen with the EPA recommending the brine bath, that's to get them ready for transport. So some research is being done on different types of salt, how much salt concentration, and the mindset there is in a recovery mode just to get these batteries to an inert state so that you don't have something that's going into thermal runaway months or even possibly, what are we going on, 6-8 months,
Yep.
Post incident
Yep.
now. So
Clark, any lessons learned from the Las Vegas area?
Well, we have, I think, is a very unique situation here in Las Vegas. We hired Elon Musk and his boring company.
Yes.
They drill tunnels. So we are currently drilling a tunnel, a two-way tunnel, 2 side-by-side tunnels underground. And right now it just goes in between the convention center, but eventually it's going to go from the airport all up one side of Las Vegas Boulevard, down the other side of Las Vegas Boulevard. And because it's Elon Musk's boring company, the transportation is 1 unmanned Tesla vehicle per person in that tunnel. So that tunnel will contain hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of electric Tesla vehicles unmanned, traveling all the time.
No problem.
What could possibly go wrong?
Underground, right? And so they gave the technical rescue team all these recirculating air packs. But here's the funny thing: this is operating. This is operating, and we don't have a plan on how to fix this problem if there is a fire. Now, what we've come up with on our own is, all right, there is ventilation in the tunnel, so we're going to force air in one direction. There's standpipes throughout the tunnel. There's drainage throughout the tunnel. So the plan is to get one of those electric vehicle blankets. The battalion chiefs all now have an electrical vehicle blanket, and they also have one of the under the car nozzles. So our plan is to throw the blanket over the car, put the nozzle under the car, pull the nozzle on, and just leave it in the tunnel. And our attitude now is, now it's up to the agency. It's up to the people who own the tunnel. You have to figure out how to get a burned up or currently burning Tesla vehicle out of the tunnel, and where are you going to put it, and what are you going to do with it when it comes out? And no one has an answer. But it's currently operating. We currently have people underground right now in unmanned and driverless Tesla vehicles underground right now.
I like to see you using the blanket with the high heat that comes out of that and having a tunnel underground. That's just as bad as our parking garages.
We've got the same situation in Miami. So
Really?
I'd be curious to see. So I would imagine that that's monitored through cameras, and you've got some type of communication center where the company is monitoring conditions and taking readings, an event system as well.
Yes. Yep. Technologically speaking, it's a very advanced system inside there with where they put the ventilation, how they push air through that. Again, the standpipes, all that information. I was actually part of the rescue team when they put the drill in. And this is massive, massive drill. And one guy is standing behind the drill with an iPad, and he's controlling this whole drill. No one else, just one guy and an iPad, and he's moving this thing millimeters. He presses the button, and the machine moves 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters. It's extremely impressive to see the technology behind this. But again, like everything, right? And it's going to drop it on our lap. Good luck, guys. Here's a potentially catastrophic situation.
Yeah, that's fun.
So here's another thing. So the vehicle catches on fire. All right. The occupants of the vehicle leave the vehicle. They flip a coin, right? If you go behind the vehicle, if you go on the ventilation side of the burning vehicle, you will live. If you choose to go on the opposite side of the ventilation, you're dead. That's it. Because there is nowhere to go. You can't find, there's going to be so much smoke. There's going to be so much smoke. You're not going to be able to find the evacuation tunnels or anything like that. And you're going to be asphyxiated. So
is there like doors periodically through that tunnel, or, God forbid, if something goes wrong, you guys have a way to, is there a little escape hatch for you guys? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we have escape hatches every 160 feet. We have a standpipe outlet. They're going to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Teslas underground with things in full operation with people in them.
What can go wrong?
Good luck, everybody.
Yeah.
Clark, where do they act them at? You said through each casino, or is there like a station? It reminds me of here in Chicago, our underground subway system.
Yep, it's a subway system. As of right now, the only functioning portion of the tunnel is between our convention center. We have 3 buildings, the convention center, so you can go from one side to the other. But eventually, it will go you'll be able to pick it up at the airport. It will go underground, and then any hotel you want, every hotel will have an access point on both sides of Las Vegas Boulevard.
Incredible. We'll wait and see, I guess, what happens.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Typical, just like everything, right? We'll wait and see.
I'm glad you're using the metric system, Clark. I heard you say 1 millimeter. That's great. You know what that is.
It's about this much. That's what I know. That's about.
It is. That's right. And you talk about a horizontal tunnel. Well, we'll take a vertical tunnel. So we had a high-rise staircase that had positive pressure stairwells, and the crew responds to alarms on the 26th floor. They go 2 floors below. They get off the elevator. They open the stairwell door, and black smoke fills the hallway instantly. They go down 2 more floors. They open the door, the exact same thing. So now they're 4 floors below, heavy smoke. And what happened was the tenant on the 26th floor, I would have done the same thing, had a e-scooter on fire, took it out into the hallway, realized that there's units in the hallway, and put it in the stairwell. So they responded to the 26th floor for a smoke alarm. And meanwhile, now the fire is in the stairwell, and it's a fire that we can't put out. So it really shocked our crews, and there was a lot of troubleshooting. Now, because the stairwells were scissor, they're actually able to get to the clean stairwell and take that up and actually get a line on the fire. But it really confused them.
Well,
Wow.
Brent, I think you need to document a case of scissor stairs actually working to your advantage in a high-rise situation. I
Right.
think that's the first one ever.
Yeah, it did. It works.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree on that, Chief. Those are complicated stairways too, and eventually you lose both of them.
yep.
Right.
Yeah, interesting, Brent.
Well, Brent, we've learned a lot from you on a lot of topics, and I really am glad that you're participating with us. With you're a regular now, and we've learned a lot because you're an innovative guy. Maybe you send videos out of your successes, but there's got to be a few faux pas in there that you make it, but we don't get to see that. But you know what?
I got to hold back because people are going to start thinking I'm crazy. I'm up to Singapore and Kuala Lumpur. I'm looking at some of their high-rise buildings, and they are so high tech and advanced. I want to just see if some of my theories line up with them. So I'll be in the second tallest building in the world. And then I'll be speaking in Singapore to the Council of Tall Buildings. These are the engineers, the architects, and the designers that build these buildings. And I'm going to ask them these difficult questions. Say, hey, we or an e-scooter in a stairwell, and the positive pressure system meant to protect the stairwell actually made things worse for us. What would you suggest we do? So I'm starting to write questions down. So if you have any, send them my way. And I get to talk face to face with the people designing the biggest buildings in the world. So yeah, stay tuned.
When are you taking this soiree?
I'm taking it in this October. So I hit Dubai, then Singapore, then Kuala Lumpur, and then back to Toronto.
No, I can't think of a more qualified guy and deserving. That is going to be some interesting stuff, and you will have a heck of a lot to talk about.
I will
when you come back. So that's interesting. And are you working for the governments or for developers?
Just for myself. So I'll be the first firefighter that I believe that's boots on the ground that's ever spoke to the Council of Tall Buildings. So yeah, they're talking about timber. They're talking about high-rise buildings with battery storage, facades that store battery for high rises. So I'm going to just add my flavors as the end user, the firefighter on the nozzle. This is our problems with some of these buildings. What's your solution? And we'll have breakout groups. And I'm going to talk about communication. I'm going to talk about smoke. I'm going to talk about evacuation, which is something that's left out for the end user. We have, great systems, cameras and early warning systems, but when those fail, we have a problem. So if we have a plan A, plan B, and plan C, I'll certainly be happy and then share this out and start the ball rolling. Well, I want to try and get ahead of the buildings that are being built, because right now the buildings are built, and then we go in and figure out how to fight a fire in them. Wouldn't it be nice to know how to fight a fire in them prior to them being built?
Yep.
Yes. Is the Council on Tall Buildings, is that the organization that Jack Murphy is active in as well?
No, actually, the Council of Tall Buildings headquarters is out of Chicago. And it's designers, engineers, and architects. Actually, I was there. I met Jimmy at 2022. I was there for a conference. And Chicago, being the first high-rise building built, that's a great place to have the council. So these are all building engineers and architects. They're not. There's no firefighters part of that group.
Well, we've gotten ourselves in trouble before. For instance, NFPA 14 never had a voice of a firefighter, And these guys, well-intentioned, were designing and speccing systems, standpipe systems, with the belief that everybody out there was using 2.5-inch hose and 1.125 couplings and 1.125 solid tip nozzles. When of course they were not. So, or as they would say in Chicago and in Houston, the pipe. I do believe they call a nozzle a pipe in Houston as well. So,
They call it jet in other countries.
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
branch.
That closing line in Towering Inferno by Steve McQueen. He says, you guys keep building these things bigger and bigger. If you want to learn about how to build them, come see us. So it's good what Brent is doing is that you have an active voice. You have a seat at the table discussing some of the concerns on our end as well. You know, and another thing I think with the Council of Tall Buildings, I think you have to be like 6'4" to get in.
Okay.
See you, gang.
All right. Stay safe. Have a safe shift.
Go get them, Brent.
Yeah.
Hey, Brent,
God bless, brother. Stay safe.
don't screw this up.
We're all counting on you.
No pressure.
Man, I think that's so neat that you get a run. Would you bribe the ambulance, Jimmy, so that you don't have to take any runs?
Yeah, I'm on the bubble right now. So far, so good. Knock on wood. I think this might have been my first show where I made it without a run.
Yeah. So I really like what you're doing with your stretches and the thought you're putting into it, and the fact that you are involving your crews and listening to them during pre-fire planning. You know, you can't have a democracy in an emergency, but when there's an actual fire. But you know, you listen to your guys, and a company officer doesn't always have to be the smartest guy in the room. He just has to listen, and sometimes it's members of the crew. You know, they talk it up amongst themselves, and you might come up collectively with something better.
Yeah, we're trying to hit those mid-rises too, which could be stepping back from it just as complicated as a high rise as well.
Yeah. I know, Clark, that you've got a proposal in for big box buildings and for FDIC.
Yep, I am. Yeah, I am by far the expert on large commercial firefighting. But what I'm actively doing is I am contacting and interviewing the biggest names in the American Fire Service, and even some of the smaller names in the American Fire Service. I'm looking to develop a best practices class from coast to coast on what we think we should be doing. And I'm evaluating line of duty deaths. I'm evaluating near misses, and there's a lot of information out there. And the reason I got started on this is because we don't have any SOP. I would say we're a large fire department, 35 stations. We don't have an SOP. We don't have an operating doctrine on how far to stretch in, how to ventilate, how much water to use on these large commercials. It's always it's captain's discretion. And I'd say and I've been on several of these fires, I'd say 50% actually go well. 50% go well, and just a lot of egregious mistakes. We make a lot of egregious mistakes, and fortunately, we have not killed anyone on the fire department or civilians yet. But I guarantee you, if we keep operating the way we operate, we're going to have problems in the future. And we can easily make some of the mistakes that we see, the Worcester 6, the Charleston 9, guys like that going into these commercial buildings with residential mindsets. And that's going to get you jammed up. That is absolutely going to get you jammed up. So that's kind of what
you and I discussed. I think it was Sunday when I talked to you, an analysis of a storage facility, records, paper bank record boxes.
Yes.
Stacked 40 feet high, sprinklers operating. And the companies penetrated 600 feet into this smoky abyss. I don't think they located the fire, and then they backed out. And let the sprinklers do their job. And that's really what the insurance companies want.
Yes.
That's what they want. The insurance companies and the building owners, they spend a lot of money, or the building owners spend a lot of money on these sprinkler systems. Give them their best shot, man. They're already there. Tell you what they don't want. They don't want, and we had this discussion at this meeting with the furniture company, that they don't want firefighters getting lost and disoriented, running out of air and dying in their commercial business. They don't want that. No, they want us to do the right thing. And Clark, the best practices is support that sprinkler system. Make sure your valves are on, and then turn it over to a salvage company that is hired by the insurance company. And we're starting to find that out with certain size marine vessels as well, is that, after the initial attack, I was just examining a car carrier fire similar to what they had recently in Newark, but a few years ago had in Jacksonville, Florida, almost the same kind of fire. But they turned that fire over to professional marine firefighters and salvage companies. Otherwise, your companies are tied up for what, 3 weeks?
Yep.
3 weeks.
Right.
I think Billy Goldfeder, I listened to Billy Goldfeder speak, and this was, probably 20 years ago. And he said, if I, as an incident commander, if I ever respond to an auto parts warehouse after hours, I expect my crews, when I get out of the car, I expect to open the door and stand in 3 inches of water and see car parts floating down the street. That's my expectation of fighting car part fires in the middle of the night.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I actually have submitted an article for fire engineering, and our good friend Jimmy Steve Reddick hooked me up with some pictures of a dollar store fire that you guys had that was, oh my God, it was like a hoarder house, and the contents were just like spilling out. You know what I'm talking about? I'm trying to think of what company that was.
This was the recent one, Cap, maybe about a month ago. Yeah, it was a month ago.
Oh man, cluttered pack rat conditions.
Yeah.
It was. You guys had your hands full. I think it went to a 211.
They ran the double rams on that too. If that's what I'm thinking, with the achievement of some good leverage and some really good knockdown on that fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, hey, everyone out there listening, I would like, if you have a policy, if you have a procedure, if you even have an idea, I'd like to hear it. I'd like to see it. I'd like to hear it. So anyone out there, please, if you're out listening, reach me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on, you can email me, Clark Lamping, LAMPING @hotmail.com. Please send me all your material you have on big box fires, large commercial fires, anything like that, videos, pictures. I'll take it all. I'll take it. I'll give you credit for it too. I'll give you credit. So please.
That's great. And hey, I think it's wrap up time. This is going to be a wrap. And Jimmy, you did it, man. You made it through the whole hangout without any calls. And but I know you'll be crawling down some smoky hallways later today, so please be careful. And for my group here, brothers. Yeah, brothers. Oh, and sister. Hey, we had a great time. This was a great meeting. A great meeting of the great minds of the fire service. So until next month, this is Bill Gustin, your moderator, and may the good Lord keep us safe in our most noble profession. Goodbye till next month.
Thank you.